Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. This is Steven again. Today we are going to talk a little bit about clam placement, and I also want to just show you a little bit of what I do, or what I did, I should say, to the clams that we have in my tank. So, let's see. I want to just show you that when the clams first came from Clammania, they all have this little pedestal that they're attached to. I left this one on not just to demonstrate, but also this one is like really stuck on real tight. I didn't want to hurt it. But what I've done is actually I gave the clam like a couple weeks to settle in, make sure that it's strong, doing well before I have to do anything to shock it. And then what I did is actually take a very sharp clean razor and I cut at the very edge of the rock that they're attached to, so that I'm not hurting any part of their feet. It's just the very bottom. So I actually cut a few of this clam's feet last week, and if I lift one up, you can see that it is attached to new stones. Again, these are actually crushed corals. So let me put that back. Sorry, clams. So, I put them back in and they will secrete fluid, and they will eventually just attach to the bottom of your substrate. And I like to use crushed coral. I think a lot of vendors do too. By using crushed corals, you have the liberty to move them about a little bit. I think it actually is a little bit annoying to some hobbyists if they do come in crushed coral, because what if you want to place in a rock work, then you first have to get rid of the crushed coral, risk hurting them, etc. So that is definitely a debate. I can't say which way is better or worse, because there's also always pros and cons. Alternatively, what you can do for larger clams anyways, or even smaller clams, is this Tridacna. What I've done is that I actually attach it to an oyster shell. So it's just oysters that you can get from any supermarket, any store that sells seafood. You just basically go buy the oysters, and you eat it, clean it up real good, make sure you scrub it, soak it in vinegar if you have to, just to kill any pathogens that may come with it, and then you put the clam on it and it'll attach to it. The reason why you always want some kind of buffer between the clam and the sand is to prevent predatory creatures from going in there. So predators can go, ranging from bristle worms, any kind of parasite, and also as small as a pyramid snail. So when you first receive a clam, make sure you inspect it really closely for any sign of parasitic elements that is either attached to the shell. Usually if you are to see a pyramid snail, they would be actually just parking along the top edge of the shell. Or if the clam does not already come with things by its foot, sometimes you flip the clam over, you can actually see little snails sucking on its the underside of the clam. It's really nasty. So those are some tips. As far as water flow, I would say moderate to actually gentle to moderate. You definitely don't want super strong water. They don't need it anyways. They actually, if you have, so just to show you, this is where my power head is. So that's the direction of the water flow. What's interesting is that all these clams, you can see how they kind of turn their angle a little bit. All of them actually were facing directly at me, so like right at the camera angle when I first placed them down. Over time, they all kind of slowly turning away from the water flow. And to my experience, that seems to be the general practice for most of the clams, is that they really don't like direct water flow into their gills, into their system. So they'll try to turn slightly away from the water flow if they can. So that is definitely something to keep in mind for clam placement. is to look at your tank and see where the water flow is coming from and place their gill away from the water flow to make them happy. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is that you place them against the water flow or towards the water flow, and then the clam would have to spend extra energy to kind of spin itself around. And if the clam isn't attached to surface at that time, you're also risking the clam like clap, 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 and just fall off. And a clam that falls on its face has actually multiple consequences. For one, the clam can actually not photosynthesize for the extended period of time that it's falling on its face, and also by crushing onto its mantle, you risk injuring its mantle and also exposing the underside of the clam to any predators. If you have wrasses, angels, any kind of predatory fish, they can actually take that opportunity to pick on your clam's vulnerable underside. So that's definitely one thing to keep in mind of. Lighting, I would say anything that is compatible to SPS growth. If your tank is growing SPS really well, you shouldn't have to worry a whole lot about the lighting. Just don't place them in the very bottom of your tank. And there is always argument about certain species needs more light. So Maxima and Parasites, if you have them, they're definitely a little bit more reliant on lighting. Squamosas, in my experience, are quite forgiving. Of course, I'm not really sure about the blue ones. They're kind of a freak in nature, so maybe they do need a little bit more light. The Tridacnas, in my experience, are probably the most forgiving in light. Like, you can put them in the bottom, like really deep tank, and they'll still do fine. If you have any other species, a Noe, and Ningaloo, which are super rare to find, you please leave a comment and let us know how you like to place them. And as far as Hippopus, I don't have any currently, but they're also not part of the Tridacna family. They are photosynthetic, and their clam mantles do not extend beyond their shell. So that's just one thing to know, that they're not unhealthy. They just don't like to extend their mantle as much as the Tridacnas. They definitely like highlight as well. I used to not feed my clam, but in my most recent clam orders, because these ones I got from Clammania, they're a little bit smaller than the ones that I'm used to getting, so they're about 2.5 inch size. I thought I'd supplement them with some phytoplankton, so I do have cultured phytoplankton at home and I dose it daily. Maybe it isn't necessary, but at worst case scenario, it wouldn't hurt too. I have a strong filtration system and test my nitrate, and it is definitely not wrecking the nitrate level. So I do like the option to provide both the clam and the other corals a little bit of option to feed on natural resources. And so that's about it for the clam placement. Let me know in the comment if you have any other questions, or if you would like to contribute, or any arguments about what I just said. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you enjoy my content. Please help support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I look forward to see you guys again. Happy reefing!